this is something that also it's like, I wish people wouldn't be afraid to do is like, don't have to play it like cool, like if there's somebody you really admire, or there's something about the studio you're approaching that you think they do well, I mean, let them know. And like, I don't want to hire someone that first and foremost is not like an uber fan of just design. Like I want people that love design as much as I love design around me.
The right kind of crazy.
The right kind of crazy. Absolutely, man. Like
the Side Hustler's Perspective podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, getting out of your own way, and growing your creative business. What's going on? I am super fortunate and stoked to say that I have Tad Carpenter on today. Tad, how you been, man? What's new?
Doing good, Scotty. Good to see you. Good to hear your voice, man. I'm doing well.
It's about that time. We're in the same Midwest, and I'm not a huge fan of this weather, but yeah, we were just talking about daylight savings time is just totally tripping us up and our kids up and everything like that. So,
dude, I never, as a guy, before kids, daylight savings was never a big deal to me at all. But then you have a child and you're like, yeah, man, I hope everybody enjoys that extra hour of sleep, because us parents are going to be a wreck for about 10 days trying to get these little minds back on whatever routine it is we've been working years on to try to get it all kind of balanced. So,
and that's the thing.
Right now.
I operate strictly off routines, and we have our whole kids with routines. And yes, it's been just a nice little curveball. But for me, I'm just really, really stoked to catch up, as this episode's been easily, I would say, over a year in the making. Potentially.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've been emailing for a minute, for sure.
It's been back and forth, but you've been busy. I've been busy trying to navigate a pandemic, self-employment, 2 kiddos. You always had to seem to have some kind of book launch or something big going on. And I'm going to be honest, going back to, I think it was Crop 2017, I briefly got a chance to connect with you there. And I'll be honest, I kind of avoided you because I was hella intimidated. I had mad imposter syndrome just from like you and everyone else. Like I didn't know why I belonged there, sharing a stage with people like you that I looked up to. So it's just super dope that I get a chance to finally connect with you here. And that's why I'm really, really grateful for your time. And I'm glad we're finally able to make this work. That's why I pestered you to make up for that time. I was too sheepish to, attempt to connect. So
well, I didn't get that vibe at all when we all got to hang out there. That was a fun one.
It was a little starstruck, just a little Iowa boy. I'm like, oh my God, like these are all the people I follow on Instagram and have their books. I'm like, okay.
You're talking to a Kansas kid here, so don't sweat that. But yeah, man, that was a fun. Yeah, it's fun to. You just spelled out why creative conferences are so special. Like in the first place, yes. Hearing people talk about their kind of their projects and their approach to creativity and like all these things is super cool. Don't get me wrong. But like the value of those experiences are what you just described, which is like all of us getting to meet in person and like share a beer or share a meal or share a conversation or, whatever. Like that's the value. That's what makes those things so unique and special is those little moments. Like I very rarely like get to listen to all the talks and lectures, or like those aren't even the things that end up like sticking in my mind.
I'm going for the conversations, the dinners, the after parties where I can double fist, double Tito's and cut a rug, and
exactly.
It's like all my best friends are now people I've met at conferences or people I bring on the show, just out there headhunting, trying to get new friends. So
seriously, it's funny as I get older, like I don't know what this says about me, but like the older I get, the more I want my friends to also be like creative in some way as well. And that doesn't have to be graphic design by any stretch of the imagination, but like I just love surrounding myself with other people that are out there making things. One of my best friends is a musician, and it's amazing the crossovers and the similarities of design and music in regards to what their process is, in regards to how they sell their product, with usage rights and the litigation of it and like all the things. It's like, it's so reflective. So I love being around other creative people just because there's such a fun energy to that friendship. And as we get older, like you just said, it's funny how like all my closest buds like end up being like creative folks in some regard. I don't think that's not intentional, probably.
No, I'm the same way. And I think I want to approach this one today by one, congratulations on your latest book, which I want to get to and talk about, but I don't want to be a big shill and be like, hey, everyone, this is only about his book the whole time. I'm like, no, I want to extract a bunch of value. That way people are like, oh my gosh, I want more and I want to go get this book. So,
well, I can't promise that they're in a world of trouble. Then we got a lot of fart jokes lined up here. I'm sure.
Trust me, I got this. I can guide this. Actually, I got a funny story of Brian French telling me like a funny story about you like farting on his lap in a car. I think at Creative South.
Dude, yeah, was it you that told me that at Crop? I think.
That was me. That was me. I couldn't remember if I said that or not to you.
Yeah, you did.
That was my in. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what the hell to say. Fart jokes. I love poop jokes and fart jokes. I was meant to be a dad.
100%. We're on the same level there. Like, and it's so funny because I remember you telling me that, and I remember asking Brian about it because I love Brian and Kim French, the whole French family. Mm-hmm. Their parents are lovely people. They're just a lovely family. And I remember talking to Brian about that. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh, no, I've made that up. I've told like 30 people that story about you. And I'm
it's not even real. So I'm breaking the ice with a breaking the wind joke that it's fabricated fart joke. Oh my God. He 100%. Said that thing like stone faced seriously. He was like, oh yeah, you're going to love him. He's funny. Like tell him this story that I told you.
At the same time, I've done some wild things with folks. So there could be a grain of salt. There could be a little.
You farted on someone somewhere.
Sure. Right. No, I think Brian is just, man, I love that guy. And we're totally, this is just going to be a podcast.
Time to make up a joke about him.
Tangents. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. I think about, I'm so, I shouldn't say bummed, but like when I heard that the French family isn't involved in the French paper anymore, I don't know the whole story behind all that, but I was like, oh man, like that's great for them. And then moving forward, I'm just like bummed. I don't see Brian and Kim at like all the things anymore.
Yeah. I'm like, where's the French paper booth? And exactly. Brian's still the type of guy who would still attend though. I hope.
You're absolutely right.
When we get something in 2022, ideally.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, I guess it was a perfect time to walk away because there's been nothing going on for 2 years, right?
So what I want to do, humanize someone like you who people early on try to put on pedestals and then they get wrapped up in comparison, which is so ridiculous when you say it out loud. So I'm hoping we can go back a little bit and talk about the early days of your work when you were just finding your groove, and how did you start getting people to notice your illustration work? How did you find your groove in terms of marketing yourself in a non-gross way? So if you could speak to the early struggles, so people are like, oh my God, okay, yeah, I'm not alone with this. And then what started to click? What did you do to start gaining traction with your work? Or what's like one of the immediate things you can think of?
Right. Like, I mean, for me, so my first, so right out of school, I got a job at a small boutique branding firm. And that was always kind of the vibe I responded most to. I mean, that's why our studio is also like a small boutique design firm. And it's like, I knew that was, I think, going to be the best fit for me. So right out of school, I worked at a small studio. And what I liked about it was you are forced to do everything. You write copy, you design, you illustrate, you pitch, you take out the trash. You kind of have to do everything. And I personally responded to that. But while I was there, I was understanding that, like, I think I was meant to kind of start going out on my own. And so by doing, like, I had no real strategy on how to do that. And I don't think people should ever feel behind the eight ball if they haven't have some incredible business plan written out. And I've always heard this adage of, oh, you should have a year's worth of your potential salary saved up before you ever go out on. I think those are all great things that would ideally be a wonderful way to start a business. I didn't do any of that. Kind of on the seat of my pants, just kind of ran out on my own. And
you kind of had like a an itch, kind of like I had an itch, I guess, that
Totally.
I could do this employed thing, but there's something else I'm supposed to do in a sense.
100%. And I knew it was, I was always thankful that I waited longer than I probably should have, opposed to jumping a little too early. Because I think if you jump too early and you fail, that second time it's that much more challenging, I think, potentially. And so I wanted to make sure I stayed as long as possible, to be honest, to learn as much as I possibly could. I always tell young designers, like, I know right out of school, you want to just like, just go, change the world and do it on your own. And if you can work for anybody for 3 to 5 years, it will be the most valuable 3 to 5 years, no matter what the financial implications are, just to absolutely to learn this industry. My gosh, you're getting paid to learn, which it's no fault of universities and art schools. They can't teach you those things in real time. And so I think that's really important. And for me, when I got out on my own and I literally didn't really have any clients, I kind of just started making dream lists of people who I would love to work with. And I am a huge believer in that you should never be too proud to not reach out to the people that you think you'd be a good fit with and help whatever their cause is. And like, I started trying to find creative ways to reach out to some of those people that I thought I would be a good fit to work with. And I started doing, at the same time, I started doing just things on my own. I was doing a ton of screen printing at the time. Me and one of my best buddies started a screen printing shop, and we were doing a ton of gig posters and band tours and like things like that, in addition to all my design work as well. Like, I think it's smart to create like little silos. I mean, Scotty, you're a good example, right? You got the podcast, but you also do your design work, right? And it's like, I'm the same way. It's creating these little silos that you can lean on at times. When sometimes something's lean, you still have something else going on over here. I mean, you always hear, those financial advisors talking about how important diversification is. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to diversify into this and that. Think
a little Bitcoin. Yeah,
exactly. I agree. There you go, man. Get that Bitcoin, get that, no, diversifying as many different creative outlets as you can. That's a kind of a safe approach for sure. So I started reaching out to some people, and like, I did it like way old school. I literally was like super stocky and like would look up people on like, it's so easy. Like, we live in a time where it's so easy to find like someone's address, someone's title, someone's creative, you know what I mean? Like, I always tell people, like, if you were like an amazing Googler, that should be like the first stat on your freaking like your resume, because like, there is an art and a skill to being able to like sift through all the things and like find like very specific information, whether that's, helping with, building strategy for a client or researching whatever. Oh my God, there's an art.
Spying on your neighbor.
Absolutely.
She should have been a detective.
Man, maybe she's going to be the next like true crime superstar or something, to solve some.
She'd be good at it. Man, I would love to know. A lot of like my students or people I talk to creative wise, they struggle with that cold outreach. You made that dream list. What are like 3 ways that you went and pitched yourself in a non-gross way?
Yeah. Like, I mean, to me, I've been thinking about this lately, because it's like,
or even how do you do it today, or do you even need to?
That's my question, is like today. So like, this was me doing this in like, 2008, 2009, 2010, like in that range. That was a very specific environment. But now my biggest question with how I used to do it versus now is no one works in offices right now. We're all like kind of hybrid, like, at least for us, I can speak to our studio. Like, we're kind of doing a dual thing, like a couple days in the office, a couple days we're all at home. I'm at home right now. We kind of just like, we're all kind of bouncing around, which I think a lot of big clients are that way too. Or, to be honest, most like big corporations and big clients, they're all still completely remote at home, it seems like. So like, when I was young and like trying to build my studio, I would make these like very elaborate kind of like packs almost to showcase the work I did. And I would mail them directly to these people that I thought we could be a good fit together and that I could like potentially help. And it was incredibly beneficial. And now I'm like, oh man, I would love to work with that person. We should whatever. But I'm like, oh, no one's in an office right now. Like, how do I was thinking about it. Like, I was like, oh, I love to send out a little holiday gift at the end of the year to all our clients and people we've been working with throughout the year. I'm like, I don't even know where anyone is. What, I don't know if that's a thing this year again, So in regards to that, I don't know how you approach that, especially like, 10 years ago, Instagram wasn't a thing. Right. But I still think there's a lot of value to like, how can you tangibly get in front of someone? Because I know like I get a lot of emails of like somebody saying, oh, I'm a young designer from X, Y, and Z. I'd love to help out in any way. And a lot of times it's not very specific requests. It's just like a big, like, it's just a giant dart being thrown your way, which is fine. And I totally understand it. But the times that has worked in our studio more, like our current intern's a great example. She's crazy talented. And she literally, back in like April, sent us an email and just was like incredibly intentional in what it was she was asking for. And I think that's important is being intentional in the communication that you share with people. And our current intern, her name's Anna, so smart and very talented. And she was very intentional in her request, which was, I'm going to be a senior this next year. My strengths as a designer are this, and here's some examples of those work. The type of work I would like to continue to do is this. She goes like, I'm available these days and these times. And asterisk, I'm also fully vaccinated and ready to be anywhere you need me to be, And all of it, I was like so thankful for just like all the transparency, all the intentions, like just like being pushed in front of me and saying, where I'm like, oh, half of my questions right off the bat are kind of answered. You know what I mean? Not to mention I can see your work. That's obviously something that has to be successful as well.
And she just link to a portfolio site 100%. Versus just packing your email with a heavy attachment.
Do not send like a 27 megabyte attachment or something like that. Yeah, like links. Yeah, exactly. So that was just in a more recent time, and somebody that we hired, being intentional in what you want out of it, and like don't be afraid. This is something that also it's like I wish people wouldn't be afraid to do is like don't have to play it like cool, like if there's somebody you really admire or there's something about the studio you're approaching that you think they do well, I mean, let them know. And like, I don't want to hire someone that first and foremost is not like an uber fan of just design. Like I want people that love design as much as I love design around me.
The right kind of crazy.
The right kind of crazy. Absolutely, man. Like this is a weird profession we all chose to get into. Like,
you should be able to not turn it off. Like I'm not going to eat at that diner because the kerning on that logo is horrible. My wife now is like calling out kerning everywhere. I'm like, she's a keeper. She's a keeper.
She gets it, man.
Sees it.
She gets it. I like to, especially when somebody's, 21, 22, 23, like, boy, I hope you're enthusiastic about it. I get it. Going through school is really hard and it does beat you down after. There's a lot of all-nighters and a lot of like, you're really digging through some stuff, but my goodness, I hope you still have the enthusiasm to like, that can take you really far in this industry. It's just enthusiasm and excitement and high energy, and you hope to show. I would always recommend showing that because those are the people that are going to get an interview or a call back or something. Is you can feel that even in something like a cold call email.
So just to like wrap up, you may not think you dropped a bunch of little nuggets. So for someone who's just like pitching themselves or pitching the value they want to provide for some type of opportunity, be hella intentional. Communication skills are powerful. Be enthusiastic with some high energy. Context, be super specific, but also be concise and pack it with links versus maybe not too many links, but pack it with links versus attachments. To me, that's all helpful. Speak toward the benefit that you can provide.
Absolutely. It's like, it'd be wonderful if we had more, like my wife, Jessica, and I, who run our studio, like we're always like, I wish we had more time to like really sit down and send like very thoughtful responses to either young designers or even, experienced designers who reach out to us. I wish we had more time to respond, like very thoughtful emails. But when so many are coming in, you have to be able to react somewhat quick. And we try to respond to everyone, even if it's a thank you. We'll be in touch, or we'll continue to consider you if we're not hiring at the moment. But God, when they're concise and you can really like digest it very fast and then go look at it at your own time. There's a lot of value to that, I think, I think as we move into 22 and we see where things are going, continue to think about like creative ways that you can get in front of people. I don't know what I'm not smart enough to know what that answer is, but if that is designing some sort of very unique object or very unique thing that could showcase who you are, of course, a website and a social presence and things like that, I think are helpful, but like, what is it that you could maybe get in front of someone that they're not going to throw away? It's not just like a postcard. It's not just like whatever, something that they would actually maybe keep in their cubicle, probably not the right word, but you know what I mean? Their space. I think that's important because most of the time when I've ever reached out to people, and I think it's like this common perception that you might reach out to someone and they're like, hello, I have a job tomorrow. Are you ready to go? And it's like, it's never that way. It's normally, this is awesome. We'll keep you in mind. And it's all about planting seeds, because that tree might grow in 3 months. I've literally had people call me back years later and say, I remember this thing I saw of yours 3 years ago. And it's always been sitting around and we've always kind of had you in mind. And so you have no idea when that seed's going to come to fruition at all, which is actually kind of exciting, I think. But
for sure, I think that's both in sharing your work as well as touch points with building relationships. It's all just planting seeds at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
The next thing I want to talk about, because you're a dad, and this stuff gets me pretty worked up and excited and emotional at the same time. But my favorite occupation by a landslide isn't being a designer. It's not being an artist. It's not being a coach. It's getting to be a dad. And I see that a lot in you. And that's what I really highly respect, way more than just your design work. I love that you love being a dad. That's dope as hell to me. And it got me wondering this question. So I know your dad nurtured your creativity growing up. Like, you're very, very fortunate. I didn't really have a creative dad. But man, he like helped me out with sports and work ethic and everything, which carried over into my creative pursuits. So a cool question that I thought of was like, what are you doing with your kiddo right now, little Luca, to nurture his creativity? And, one of the things that I'm doing just for fun right now is like, I'm introducing him to like little things like Barnyard Friends.
Oh man.
Who's that staying up late tonight? It's a Barnyard Bash. Woo!
Yeah,
we get crazy.
Oh man, he's got great taste in literature already, I see. So that's a big one.
We got well-designed and illustrated books with a fun message. And I'm like introducing you to like, or I'll like pop in a Lincoln Design Logo Mayhem book, or here's Draplin's book. Look through this too, but very carefully. Don't crinkle the pages. But like, I would love to know, what are you doing right now with your son to nurture this? I thought, and what did your dad do with you?
Oh, absolutely. No, behind the scenes on that book that you held up there, like this was a first that this had never happened to me before. On the last spread of that particular Barnyard Bash, so I did a board book series a number of years ago, and one of them is yep, there. Oh man, look at you got a set of them right there, man.
There's a couple I'm missing right now, but dude, he loves these.
Oh, that's good. It's hard to go wrong with flaps. It's all about exploring and learning to get better with your hands and your eyes. It really is. But on that particular one, the Barnyard Friends, the last page is like it's like a party. Like all the animals get together at the end of the night and have a party, right?
It's a Barnyard Bash, man.
It's a Barnyard Bash, man. That's what we do at the end of the day, man. You get your work done. It's time to let loose. Well, on the last spread, there's a goat. He's a DJ. And so he's got a little MacBook Pro and he's a little DJ, right? Oh yeah, he's holding it up there, right? And so
for the YouTube watchers, there we go.
YouTubers. So there's a goat and he's like a little DJ. Well, inevitably I designed like a little, it's not the exact same thing, but it's like a little fake Apple logo to go on the back of the MacBook Pro. Just a very abstract apple that goes on the back of it because it's a silver laptop he's DJing. I'm going to go on a limb and say he's probably not using a Dell, but you know what I mean? Like, so I put this little fake icon on it. The books were fully printed, getting ready to be distributed around the world to all the various booksellers. And my publisher calls me like, we have a huge problem. There's an Apple logo on the back of that laptop on the last spread. Like, we have to do something about it. And I was like, do something about it. The books are all printed, right? Like you said, they're getting ready to be distributed like in all your channels. So like there's a guy in Florida, they call him the book doctor. This happens all the time. Like you notice something at the end. We literally send crates of this book to this person in Florida and he just fixes things. Like that's just all he does. So if you look on that last page, there's a single foiled dot on the back of that laptop. And that foiled dot is purely there to hide the fake Apple logo I accidentally put on that book. And thank you to the book doctor, whoever that person is, and somewhere in Florida.
Crates of books, just like one at a time.
Boink, one at a time, foil stamping, one little dot. Yeah. And they were just like, they were overly, the publisher was like, we cannot be sued by Apple. So I was like, I hear you. I'm sorry. None of us, all the art directors and editors and all the people never caught that in that particular book. But
right. That's like a nice Easter egg though, for the design community who are dads.
Exactly. I personally love like weird little Easter eggs on, it's like shit like that is always going to happen, man. Like, it's just like, there's things like that are going to occur. But back to your question too, it's like, yeah, I had a very fortunate and unique upbringing in that both my parents are creatives and my mom is a fiber artist and she does something called rug hooking, which is she dyes her own wool and then hooks these really beautiful wall hanging rugs. And then my father he was a creative director most of his career, but he started as an illustrator and a writer. And he worked for Hallmark greeting cards for nearly 42 years, his whole career at one place. Granted, he moved around within that giant company, but he spent most of his career, all of his career there, and most of his career was in their international division. So my dad was in charge of a lot of the creative, if not all of the creative, happening outside of the United States. So all the subsidiaries and studios that were creating Hallmark greeting cards around the world were reporting and coming through my father as a creative director. So I also got to spend a lot of time overseas with him. We got to go to Japan and all kinds of places. And what was unique about that is because I remember going to Japan with my dad. I think I was 19 when we did. And I already knew I really liked design and art at that point. But what I loved about it was I got to meet all these designers in Japan that worked with my dad, and they knew I was interested in design. And them being closer in age to me than my father even, they were able to say, welcome to Tokyo. I want to show you some things that you're really going to like if you're a designer. You know what I mean? And like blew my mind, but my whole life, my father always nurtured being creative. He, first and foremost, I love the fact that he understood the value of being creative and how important that was to bring to the table being creative, and that you can make a living doing this. You can do really well doing this, and he recognized early that I love to draw just like he did. So like so many dads that, work on cars together or like do whatever dads do with their children. Me and my dad would draw and paint and like do all these things, which was a bond for us, And it's cool to see now that I'm a dad, I have a 2, our son Luca is 2, just turned 2. I try to draw and I try to, we read a lot. He loves books, which I'm really thankful for. But what's really cool is to see my father now. He really nurtures Luca as well. And like, Luca and my dad just started painting together. Like my son is like really loves watercolors, and it's purely because my dad, his poppy, has introduced him to watercolors, and I see them in the chair painting watercolors
That's so
together,
dope.
and I'm like, dude, it's super special. And so yeah, like and the fact that my son is now in a family where, you know, I'm a designer, my wife's a designer, my mom's an artist, my dad's an illustrator. You know, it's like, I mean, even his other grandparents are both creative people in their own rights.
Watch, he'll become a farmer.
Honestly, I hope so. Like, it's so much simpler, man. Like, it's so much easier.
Farm those Iowa potatoes. Yep.
Dude, just hop them. Well, I'll say this: the dude loves tractors. Like, I'm not. He's. I don't know what it is. I'm like, newsflash, I am not like a car truck guy at all.
Same.
Right? Like, I've never had any interest. I don't know what it is. And especially like, I always thought like little boys got into that kind of stuff because they get around like other little boys, and then they're just like influenced by like peer pressure and stuff. We've been in isolation for 18 months. He doesn't see a lot of other children at all, but like just in his DNA, it's like trucks, tires. Oh,
they're wired to see one and just without even knowing. Yeah, my son's obsessed with Hot Wheels. He knows combines, freaking everything, rollers, all kinds of rigs, harvesters, all construction equipment. He can name them all off. Oh, yeah. Like, okay, backhoes. Now I know all of them too. So
that's what's crazy now. I'm like, well, I'll say, oh, look at that digger over there. And he goes, no, that's an excavator or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Excavator, Dad. That's an excavator. I'm like, okay, I was testing you. Dude, I'm like, that's a backhoe, buddy. My wife's like, what are you talking about, hose? What are you?
No, backhoe. Watch your language. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. He loves fire trucks also. But when he says fire truck, it does not sound like fire truck. And you know, so yeah, it's like when you're in public and he's talking about fire trucks, you kind of got to be like, I promise he's not,
fire engines now, fire engines.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing I also find really important, and a lot of people I brought on the show, they found a lot of success by hiring themselves through personal passion projects. And I've seen a lot of that with you. And I'm like, dude, this dude's insane. He's been doing Sunday Suns, which I would love for you to talk about. But through this initiative of like, take an initiative, doing something that interests you, that is a weird thing that you're fond of, or your passions, your values, your beliefs, whatever it is. And I would love if we can somehow extract some type of actionable tips and takeaways of the power of hiring yourself for your work, how that's like really benefited you, how that's led to Sunday Suns. And then more above all else, like, how do you make intentional focus time to play outside of being a dad, having a studio, all these deadlines that you have? Here, there's 17 questions. Can you just answer all that, please?
There you go. Exactly. Right. Okay. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like there's, and I will fully admit that, pre having a child, my personal project and like, specifically what you're talking about, Sunday Suns, it was a lot easier before the kids entered the fray, right? However, I also recognize how valuable and important it is to me personally and to my practice to be able to find an excuse and time to play.
Why is that? Because I am just this year, in the last 2 years since going self-employed and all in the coaching lane, because that's what brings in the most money, I lost sight of how to play, and I'm like tapping into it in Q4. I'm like, wow, I don't need my art to make money. I need it to be a better creative in my business. So I've learned the hard way of neglecting it.
No, and that has a lot to do with it. I mean, and I talked about it in the book to an extent on why I started in the first place. And it's something that I find myself, reevaluating all the time, is that, we all, for me at least, design, or let's just say making art, has always been incredibly therapeutic. Art has been a therapy for me for my whole life in some way or another. It has created an opportunity and has created an environment for me a lot of times where I can kind of find kind of my little moment of zen, where I can kind of shut down a lot of things and I can focus. I think there's so much incredible value to being able to just like stop what you're doing, work with your hands for a little bit, and allow you to be a little bit more introspective and kind of work through some things internally. And so when I started the project, I was finding myself in I was in a creative rut, but I was also just like kind of, kind of, kind of dealing with some depressive tendencies that I needed to figure out how to get out of. And were those a result of, you know, client work, getting beaten down, and like, whether we want to admit it or not, sometimes some of the stuff we make becomes personal to us. And when it doesn't work out, that's a bummer. I needed to create an opportunity where I could make things for myself and no one else. And it was an opportunity to create some kind of therapeutic opportunities for myself to just kind of focus and be a little more introspective. But then it also was allowing myself, like you said, an opportunity to play. But what play is creating for yourself, as much as it is an opportunity to play and find joy in the thing you do, it also is creating a platform to allow yourself to practice. And I think we forget that what we do, and you and I fall under the category of the small Venn diagram of designers who are also into sports and athletics in some way,
Rare breeds. It was like the weird creative hybrid in school. It's like totally, you're either like football jock or you're like the artsy fartsy. And I was like, I get both worlds.
I know, weird world that like somehow I was the captain of the football team, but then also like I would bring my pink haired friends to the parties, you know what I mean, from all my art classes, you know what I mean? And it's like, I love that diversity. And for me though, it's like finding opportunities to practice, because that's what I wanted this Sunday Sun project to also be for me, was a venue to try new mediums, to try new ways of telling stories, to try new ways of creating marks, to find a way to, how can I get faster at my craft? Because it's not like I'm getting more time in life. I'm getting less time. How can I get better at just coming up with ideas faster? And it's that analogy of, baseball players, are in the batter's box warming up with the weight on their bat, and they're swinging it so that when they actually get up to a live ball, that bat feels like a feather. And this project is essentially a bat weight, it's creating a venue for me to practice. It's creating a venue for me to just have fun and play with no deadlines, no briefs, no anything other than you just got to post it sometime within the 24 hours of the day on a Sunday. And that has been so reassuring for my practice in my studio and my day-to-day designing. It's always such a bummer when you get something rejected or they go a direction you didn't want them to. The sting of that is a little less, knowing that I get to make something for myself later on this week. It's going to be okay, And there was some really, really valuable things there when I started introducing this project. It's hard, like, especially now with a kid, every week I'm like, oh shit, when am I going to do that this week? Because on Sunday we have this at this time, and then we got to go do this at that time. Where, pre-kids, it was like, oh, I'll wake up early and do it, and then we'll go have our day and I can come back and finish it later. No, you have to really start to figure out time, and it boils down to discipline, And for me, you talked about, having a schedule and how important those routines are for you. I'm the same way. Like if I'm ever like, I remember, back in the day, remember when we all used to be able to go on vacations. Like if I was ever away too long, I started getting itchy because I was like, I need my routine again. You know what I mean? And so it's like, for me, having a routine and injecting, like trying to very intentionally have discipline in the way I work, that, like, I don't know, there's something incredibly important to that for me. Even in the confines of being free and exploring, I think creating rules and structure for yourself to then achieve a goal is really important.
It's like creative constraints still within the realm of play becomes purposeful play. And what's awesome, what I'm learning when you carve out time for it, you don't know what it's going to turn into. Hence, fast forward. So can you spread out this timeline? Like, I know, but when did this start and how many Sundays in a row have you done so people can realize just how big of a psycho you are, and then be blown away about like what it turned into? Because you never know what your play is going to turn into. It's planting 100%. Seeds.
100%. It is. It started in May of 2015. And it literally just started with me kind of making a little sun and exploring very early on a Sunday morning after kind of a rough week. And I posted it on Instagram as kind of just like a kind of holding myself accountable in some regard. I had no idea if I was going to do this for a month or 6 months or a year. I had no idea what I would do. And so, my only real rule was, you have to create one and post it on a Sunday. And I also like the idea that it was a sun. It's a play on words, of course, but it's also like I wanted a little more positivity in my life. Like I wanted to be around things that are a little more positive. It's if you sit in the barber chair long enough, you're eventually going to get a haircut. You know what I mean? And it's like if you're around positive actions and positive people and positive situations, eventually things are going to get a little more positive for you.
Like attracts like.
Right. And so so now I've been doing it, we're 6.5 years. I think I'm on like 336, so that's 336 straight Sundays of making something for myself. And then, here about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the publisher Counterprint, which is a publisher just outside of London, they approached me and wanting to do something together. And they actually threw out a few ideas, and the top one being, we'd love to turn this personal passion project of yours into a collection, into a book.
They pitched you on your own passion project.
They had there were several ideas on what potentially we could do together, maybe. And that was one of them. And I really, really, I thought that this was a good time to do that. I was excited about that. And so it also mattered. I'll be honest, there was another publisher that was talking to me about doing something as well. And they wanted to turn it into something I totally wasn't stoked about. I thought it just didn't feel authentic to what I was doing. And so when Counterprint showed up, I was so beyond excited because John and Celine, who run that, I hold them to the highest of regards. I think they make some of the best design books that are being produced.
Go Bucks, by the way. I'm a Bucks fan.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Sorry, go on.
Counterprint makes the best, I think, some of the best graphic design and art books that are being made out there. I love that they're a smaller publisher. I love that they're a husband and wife team. I relate to that. And they had a really, really strong vision, and it was exciting to work with them. And it, due to COVID, it ended up taking a lot longer because it was like, well, we don't want to, it was actually originally set to release like 3 days before the 2020 election. And I was like, we cannot release this positive book 3 days before the US election. I was like, no matter what the outcome is, it's going to get swallowed up by whatever happens. And so there was I think that was the second pushback. It got pushed back into 2021. I think it was originally going to come out in maybe 2019, and then COVID hit, and then or early 2020. It was like I had no intention, zero intention that this little personal, this little passion project of mine would become a book. Like that was by no means. It was purely about trying to feel a little better, to get a little better, and to put something out there that was a little better. And then this is just gravy on top, right? It's just incredible.
So how much time did you put into these? You had to carve out some kind of constraint. As kind of wrap things up, I want to officially talk about the book too, where people can get it. But how much time did you put into each one of these as a constraint? Did you give yourself a constraint with your purposeful play?
I did. The original goal was I wanted to try to give myself only between 1 and 2 hours was kind of the goal. And I try to stick to that.
Some of these look like they took way longer.
And some of them did. And some of them, there's some in there where I ended up making giant masks that I wear. And then there's some that I would carve out of wood, or then there was some I would make. Yes. So there's definitely several of them in there that took substantially more time, and it honestly, it kind of came down to week by week. If I had a Sunday that was kind of open, and I was and everybody can relate to this, I was kind of feeling it. I was like, oh man, I'm in a good headspace for making something right now. I'm gonna spend the day. I'm gonna spend half a day doing it. You know what I mean? Like I want to do that. But then there's other days everybody can relate to where I'm like, it's 6 a.m. I have to be in the shower by 7:30 because we have to be somewhere by 9 or something, you know. And even I'm like, what can I do? I have an hour and a half. Like, what can I do? And like, I think we've all been in that situation. And it's like, I will just try to lean on my strengths. What am I good at here? What can I know I can succeed with in an hour or whatever? And you try to do that, you know. And what I also love about it when I scroll through the Sunday Sun website, or I look, you know, just at them through the book or whatever is, and I don't expect people to be able to fully understand this, but it definitely is like feels almost like a diary or a journal for me personally.
I bet you can look back at that moment and be like, oh, I remember that day. That week sucked.
Yep, exactly. Like,
but this made it good.
Yeah, like I can remember where I was physically. Like maybe a lot of these were done when I was traveling somewhere, and so like, oh, I remember drawing that one here, or I can remember, you know, being wherever. Or even like emotionally, I remember where I was. Like, oh, I can remember, there's one that, you know, I photographed the morning after my son was born, and like, you know, at the hospital, you know, and so like, you know, there's just all these like really fun moments that I can feel when I look through it, and I see, you know, different travels and different people and different, and it's a very collaborative, even though it's a personal project. Like I collaborated substantially on this. I mean, first and foremost, my wife, who's an amazing designer, she looks at everyone I do and gives me the thumbs up or I think we could get that a little better here. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And everything I do is improved because of her. But then it also was, you know, collaborations with my mom. My mom and I made a couple together, and like, you know, friends would help me screen print, or friends would help me build something, or like, it's just a great opportunity to collaborate with people that you love too.
So where can people go to get this book? And I'll make sure to type it all in the show notes, and I want to give a book away.
So. Yeah, man. You can get directly from the publisher. I think that's always a great place, which is Counterprint. If you Google Counterprint, first and foremost, you're going to try to buy every book that they make. But you can buy it from Counterprint. And then we have a few, which you're looking at here. We have a few on our website as well, which is carpentercollective.com. You can buy them either place. Yeah, it's been super fun and a very unexpected project for sure. Well,
I will definitely be plugging it, and we will find a way to give it away somehow. So listen to that in the outro. But I really, really, really appreciate your time today. And I have plenty of nice little McValue nuggets that I can take away and inject here. So where can people go to find you online and support you?
Oh, absolutely, man. You can find me on Instagram, which is just Tad Carpenter. My studio is Carpenter Collective. I think it's the same on Twitter. And then our studio website is carpentercollective.com. And then the Sunday Sun website is I think it's sunday-suns.com as well. And you can see that whole collection there. And yeah, man, any other questions? You can go for it. We can tell more stories. I
would actually be down for a round 2 sometime.
Yeah, man, that'd be great. That'd be super cool.
I'll have a million questions, but I also want to respect your time and my editor's time. So, but thank you again. And yeah, let's keep in touch. And maybe one day I can talk some smack with another like Kansas City Bucks game or something. We don't have any sports big team in Iowa. So, you know, I got to find something.
I know, man. Well, hey, man, there was all those rumors about, you know, Kansas joining the Big Ten. So it's like, man, that would then bring, you know, us up to Iowa a little.
You don't want this smoke. You don't want this Hawkeye smoke. Right? All we got is a run game, maybe a play action here and there, but yeah, at least it's really, really fun to tailgate.
I hear it's a good stadium for sure.
It's a lot of fun, but maybe Cropper Creative South next year. Like I'm going to both of those. I need this. So maybe I'll run into there and treat you to a slice or something.
Oh, dude, I would love that, man. Let's hope we can start seeing people in person a little bit more in the next year.
Fingers crossed. I have hope, but thanks, man. Let's keep in touch.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.